I'm Patrick King, and this is a Synthwave Ultra tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you how to put together some cover art in Photoshop for a single EP or even an album cover through the use of free stock photos, filters, and some pretty easy to use layer effects. No melty, plasticky AI slop, just something unique to you that's quick and easy to put together. I'm going to be using this Chrome Nights cover I made as a basis, but you can use the general idea from the process to make your own. So let's get started.
All right, so first we're going to go to File and New and use the following settings. So for width, you'll do 12.5, height 12.5, units set to inches, resolution to 300, and color mode to CMYK. That way, should you want to do a physical release, it's nice and high resolution and print ready for you. So next, you're going to hit Create. So we've got a nice big blank square here. First, going to make sure that the rulers are showing by going to View, Rulers, which they are, and you'll right click on the rulers to make sure that they're set to percent. So after that, click and drag from the ruler to the 50% point and do the same thing from the side. Just that way you've got a nice center line here to work with. So next, over here on the layers panel, we're going to create a new folder and label it overlay. So click on the folder icon here and double click on the text and change it to overlay. We're going to add a few elements here that I like to use in my own art to give it that distinct Synthwave look. So first, we're going to create a new layer and add some noise to it. So you'll create a new layer, double click on it, and call it noise. So for this, it'll give it some texture and definition. So what you're going to do is make sure that your colors are set to black and white. Do that, and we're just going to fill it with white. Go up to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and crank it all the way up to 400%. And click OK. Change the layer blending mode to Overlay, and the opacity to 15%. Next, we're going to create a scanline overlay. So create a new layer and fill it with white. And double click and rename it to Scanlines. Now for here, we're going to change the opacity to 15% and the fill to 0. So what this does is that it makes it, with the fill being 0, the white we just added will be invisible, and overall it'll be 15% visible. Just that way, it's semi-transparent. The scan lines will be there, but they'll be nice and subtle. So now we're going to double click on the layer to bring up the layer styles. We're going to click on Pattern Overlay. So what we're going to do is change the blend mode to Overlay, and we're going to find this pattern, the black and white pattern. So it'll be in, depending on your Photoshop version, it'll be in a different spot, but we're going to find the folder labeled Web Patterns, and then click this one here. So it's half black, half white, and then change the scale to 650, and then hit OK. Next, we're going to create an inner glow layer just to kind of give it a soft border. So we're going to create a new layer, label it glow, change the fill to 0, and then fill it with white. Double click on it to bring up the layer styles and click on inner glow. So here, set the blending mode to multiply, change the color to a dark blue, kind of like dark purple, dark blue. Change the size to 250 and then hit OK. And then next, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to press Control A, or if you're on a Mac, press Command A to select the entire layer. Now we're going to go to Select, Modify, Contract, and change to 115. Hit OK. Now you're going to press Control-Shift-I or Command-Shift-I to invert the selection. Now click on the Fill tool, and then click on the main color here, and then change it to a dark purple. And then click the selection to fill it, change the layer blending mode to multiply so it's semi-transparent, and then double click on this to bring up the layer styles. Click on Stroke, change it to 10, change the color to a medium purple, and then click OK. Then click Outer Glow, set to multiply, make the color dark purple, and size to 250. And hit OK. And then we're going to click on the rectangle selection here and click off of it just to deselect it. The last thing we're going to do is add a saturation filter to make sure everything's all nice and vibrant. So down here there's the half circle icon, so click on that and click Hue Saturation. You're going to click and drag this and bring it all the way to the top outside of the folder. Right click on it and then click Delete Layer Mask, so that way it applies it to everything. You're going to click and drag the saturation all the way up to 100. So that's all set. So the layer order should be Hue Saturation, then the overlay folder, which has the border, the big inner glow, the scan lines, and then the noise. So next we're going to put together the city in the background. So for this we're going to use a stock photo. I personally like to use pixabay.com and pexels.com. They have tons and tons of free stock photos to use. There's some really great quality stuff. There's a lot of garbage on there, if we're being honest, but yeah, lots of really good quality photos to use. For projects like this, be sure to make sure that the image license allows for commercial use. Pixabay and Pexels do pretty much across the board, but just double check just to make sure that you're not using content illegally. So for city skylines, I personally like to use images that are a little more general, so that way they're not showing specific landmarks or cities, unless that's what you're going for. So in this case, we're going to be using this photo, which I'll link in the description. Make sure to download the largest version available. So what we're going to do is select the bottom layer here, and then create a new folder and label it City. And then we're going to click and drag the image of the city that we downloaded, click and drag it in here, and position and scale it so it's about 2/3 of the canvas is covered by the city itself. The image will have to be blown up to about 215%. So normally I'd advise against blowing up images, but with the overlays we created earlier, it'll hide any imperfections that come with enlarging it. So next we're going to create a mask to remove the sky. So to do this, you're going to click the polygon tool, the polygon lasso tool. We're going to zoom in and then just click and drag around the edge of the buildings. And you can include or not include certain elements if you like, just depending on what you want to do. All right, then once you get to the edge, you're going to click outside of the canvas, zoom out, and go down around the outside like so, and we have it selected. Once it's all selected, you're going to click here. There's the rectangle with a circle in it to create a layer mask. So do that, and now the sky's hidden. So now we're going to add some Synthwave colors to the city. So the picture we used already had some kind of a cool Synthwave vibe to it, but we're going to add some more colors to it just to really bring that out. So we're with the city selected, we're going to drag it in here, and we're going to add a gradient map to it. So just like we did with the hue saturation, click on the half circle icon and click gradient map. So now it brings up the properties here. So we're going to click it, and we're going to change some colors in here. So the first flag right here, this purple, we're going to double click that and make it a dark purple. And then we're going to click just below the gradient bar to add a new flag and move it to position 34. And then double click it to make that a more lighter purple. Add another flag, move it to position 55, click the color, make it pink. Add another flag, move it to position 72, make it orange, and then make the last one white. Okay, change the blending mode to soft light, and change the opacity to 75%. And then last, what we're going to do is right-click on this to delete the layer mask, and right-click on it again and create a clipping mask. So what that does is that it applies the adjustment layer specifically to that layer. Now it's time to put together the sky. So we're going to create a new folder and label it Sky. And make sure it's below the city folder. Create a new layer, use the rectangle select tool, and select the top half of the canvas. And then fill it with white. Now we're going to double click on this layer and click on Gradient Overlay. So for Gradient Overlay, we'll just need the two colors. So if there's anything else here, you can just click and drag it off of there to get rid of it. So for the one on the left, we're going to make it a nice fuchsia color. And for the one on the right, we're going to make it dark blue. And then hit OK. And then add a new layer above that. And we're going to click on the brush tool. And we're going to click just a standard brush. And then change the brush size to 1000 and the hardness to 0. And you're going to change the color to orange. Orange. And you're going to create a glow effect along the horizon, getting bigger in the middle. So kind of like so. And you want it to be kind of bigger in the middle, like a sunset. Okay. And then you're going to add a new layer above this. This is going to be stars. I'm going to show you a cool trick I learned a long time ago to quickly make star fields. So we've got the top half selected, and you're going to fill it with white. So now we're going to click Filter, Noise, Add Noise, make it 400%. Next, you're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then change the radius to 1. Now you're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Levels. So with this, you've got your black flag here and the white flag here. So you're going to start by bringing the black flag together to really bring out the blacks. So, and then the white, bring that closer to bring out the white, and just adjust them until you're happy with your little star field. And there you go. Let's make it a little darker. And hit OK. So now you've got some stars. And then you're going to add a layer mask to this. So you have the layer selected, to layer mask, and then click and hold the fill tool to bring up the gradient tool. Now we're going to click and drag from about halfway up to about 2/3 or so up, maybe a little more. So that way the stars fade as they get close to the horizon. And lastly, we're going to change the blending mode to screen, which makes all the dark parts transparent. And then next, we're going to create a new layer and do Filter, Render, Clouds. So for this, we're going to have the layer selected and press Ctrl-T for transform. And we're going to adjust the size of it. So increase the width to about 300 and the height to 200. Let's make the width 400 actually. And then press enter. And then, same as before, you're going to hit the layer mask. And then just like with the stars, you're going to click and drag from the center to about 2/3, 3/4 up. So that way it fades toward the horizon, and then change the blending mode to overlay. So now you've got some nice cloud textures there. Next, we're going to add the figure in the middle. So create a new folder, label it figure, and place it above the city folder. So first we're going to add a square. So you'll select it from here, rectangle tool, and then hold shift to click and drag a square, like so. Change the fill to white, change the stroke to none, and then you can rotate it 45 degrees and move it down to the middle. Now we're going to add a whole bunch of layer styles to this. So double click on the name to change it to diamond, and then double click to bring up the layer styles. So first click on stroke, change the size to 20, position to inside, the color to pink. Next click on inner glow, change the blend mode to multiply, change the color to, it's sort of a dark purple. Inside to 250. Next, you're going to click gradient overlay. So for the left one, you're going to make it sort of a pink fuchsia color. And for the right one, you're going to make it a light pink. Change the angle to 90. And then on inner glow, make sure the size 250. And now we're going to do outer glow. Change the blend mode to multiply. Change the color to a dark purple. And size to 215. And click OK. And then next you're going to add a new layer above the diamond. So we're going to click on the brush tool. Change it size to 500, hardness to 0. Make sure the color is set to white, and I'm going to draw a diamond on the inside of this diamond. And it's okay if it's not perfect or not quite straight, because we're going to add some blurring effects to it. So click the smudge tool, change the size to 200, strength to 75, and we're going to do some smudging just to pull some lines up and down the side of it. So like so. You just make them kind of uneven just to make them a little more interesting so that they're not completely uniform. And next, you're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur. Change the angle to 0 and distance to 250. Click OK. You're going to double click on the layer and click Color Overlay and change it to an orange. And then we're going to click and drag this underneath the diamond, like so. And you can see it's kind of subtle there, but you can see the lines kind of poking out a little bit. Now you're going to add a new layer. You're going to click and drag it above diamond. Then you're going to do Control click on the diamond, so that way that selects the diamond shape. And then you're going to fill it with white, and do Filter, Noise, add Noise. Make sure it's 400%, and OK. Change the blending mode to overlay and opacity to 50%. So now we're going to add a stock photo, in this case a woman at the beach, which is also linked in the description. And they're going to click and drag the image into the frame. And you can size it accordingly. Now, you're going to use the object selection tool to select just the woman in the photo. So you can click over here and do object selection and then draw a rectangle around the woman, like so. And now, as you can see, that selects just her. And then we're going to create a layer mask. So that the object selection tool is really great for selecting objects out of clear backgrounds, but it still occasionally leaves little remnants around the edges. So what we're going to do is zoom in, and we're going to clean up the layer mask a little bit. So we're going to zoom in, make sure the layer mask is selected, do brush, change the size to 15, hardness to 100%, make sure the color is set to black, and then we're just going to clean it up a little bit, like so. Just to remove some little edges. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just to clean it up a bit. Then you can also use the polygon select tool to select some of these little bitty parts like so. Select that, and then just fill in with blacks, fill in the layer mask with blacks, that way it hides it. Okay, now what you're going to do is Control or Command click on the diamond to select the diamond shape, and then do Select and Inverse. Now you're going to, with the rectangle select tool selected, make sure that it's set to subtract. Click and drag around the top half of the canvas. Now with the layer mask selected again, you're going to do the brush tool, make it real big, just as big as possible, and do blacks that way. It hides the bottom of the image. And then use the rectangle tool to set it to regular, click outside to select, to deselect it, and then you're going to move it up just a couple pixels, just that way it's in line with the border on the diamond. Now we're going to add a gradient map directly above the layer of the woman. So click on here, do gradient map, and then you're going to delete the layer mask and add a clipping mask, so that way only she's selected. Alright, so now in the gradient map we're going to add the following colors in the following positions. So move the first flag to location 13, and we're going to change it to a dark blue. Then click below the gradient to add a new flag, move it to 40, make it a slightly lighter purple. Then add another flag, move it to location 80, and we're going to make it a bright blue. Finally, we're going to make the rightmost flag a bright pink. And hit OK. And now we're going to double click on the layer with the woman to bring it to layer styles. Click on inner glow, change blend mode to overlay, color to bright pink, OK, and size to 250. And click on outer glow, change the blend mode to multiply, change the color to dark purple, and size to 215, and click OK. Now it's finally time to add the text. So just like with the photos, make sure that you're using fonts that are licensed for commercial use. So create a new folder and bring it to the top just under the hue saturation adjustment layer, and then double click on it and rename it text. So for this logo, we're going to be doing a combination of block and script fonts, but you can do whatever you think looks good for your project. So you're going to do the text tool, make sure it's centered, and then we're going to do Chrome. And then for the big block font, I use a font called Kimberly. And then change it so it's all caps. Change the size to 150 pixels. And then we're just going to bring it down here. Centered, bring it down a little bit. Now we're going to add some layer styles to give it that cool chrome look. So double click on it to bring up the layer styles. Click on gradient overlay. So we're going to make it so one half is pink and the other half is blue. So we're going to click on this. The first one, we're going to make light pink to a darker pink. And for now, we're going to move it to location 49. We're going to add a new flag, make it light blue, then select the other flag and make it a dark blue. Now, the light blue flag, we're going to move that to location 50. And then I can select it. The pink flag also to location 50. That's not working. Location 49 works too. Make sure the angle's set to 90. Now we're going to click on stroke, change the size to 15, change position to outside, and we're going to change the fill type to gradient. And we're going to click on the gradient to add some alternating colors here. So the first one is going to be location 0. We're going to make it kind of a darker, kind of a purple color. Next is location 18, light pink. Location 34, kind of a medium pink. Location 48, light pink again. Location 59, make it this blue. Location 72 is very light blue. Location 86 is another medium blue. And location 100 is going to be a very, very light blue. Hit OK. Set the angle to 90. Next, we're going to do inner glow. Change the blend mode to overlay. Opacity to 75. Color is going to be a bright blue. And the size is going to be 35. Just that way it gives it a little bit of a sheen. Next, click on outer glow. Change blend mode to multiply. Change the color to a dark blue. And change the size to 100. Hit OK. Next, we're going to click on the text tool again and type out nights. And then for this one, I use a font called Still Time, which is like, it's heavily inspired by Prince's album from the 80s. So you can use that. Change the font size to 105 and put it at the bottom right corner under Chrome. We're going to double click on it. And then click on outer glow. Make sure the blending mode, you just set that to normal. Change the color to pink. And we can set the size to 65 and range set to 50. And there you have it. Now you've got a nice high-res print and digital ready image to use for singles, EPs, albums, promotions, and more. Let me know what you think in the comments and be sure to share your own creations.